Hi, Shailaja.
Okay, hi, Dhaval.
Hi, how are you doing? We finally get to see each other.
Yeah, I know. It's fast. Yeah, how are you doing, Dhaval? Good to meet you.
Yeah, lovely to see you. Hi, Vishaka.
Hello, hi sir.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, sir. How are you doing?
Very well, very well. Where are you joining from? You want to tell us?
Sure. I'm joining from Chennai.
Wonderful. Are you from Akshar Arbol School?
Yes, I'm from Akshar Arbol International School.
Wonderful. What grade are you in?
Grade 9.
Lovely, lovely. And have you, and I just wanted to understand how or why are you considering AP statistics, or have you already thought about other APs as well?
Yes, so in our school, they don't offer AP classes,
Okay.
but I've been reading up about them and I just wanted to understand how they work and how I can take AP classes. And I do like math a lot. So statistics, it's obviously has a lot to do with math. So because of that, I thought this session would be really helpful for me to think about how I could go about AP statistics. And maybe in my grade 10 and 11, I would want to take other AP classes in subjects that I'm interested in. And I just want to
Fantastic.
understand how it works and how, as a student from India, and when my school doesn't offer AP classes, I want to understand how I can take them up and how I can prepare for it, and how it would help me also. So that's why I want to join.
Absolutely. Though your school was kind enough to let you all know about this, so they're very interested in your growth, Vishaka.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, we got the information about the session from my school. So
Absolutely. I know both your founders as well, Prabha Dikshit and
uh,
they're very they really believe in student impact. So that's very important, right, to them.
yeah,
And I feel that you have a lovely school, by the way, right? Very
yeah,
nice.
yeah, we do. I think so too.
Brilliant. And I think you have some other students also from your school who might have joined. I think they're, I must applaud at least the students who've taken the time on that Monday morning. That shows that how passionate they are for math, right? So happy to see you all. I'll move on to Kirtik. Kirtik, you want to tell us about yourself a little?
Yeah, so I'm Kritik, and I just want to explore a bit more what this video is about and what statistics is all about. So that's why I decided to join.
Okay, okay, lovely. So you want to, are you, which city are you from? What school are you from? What
And
grade are you in?
actually, Chennai,
Okay, okay, lovely. Um, okay, thank you, Kirtik. Shruti, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so hi Dhaval, I'm a parent right now. I'm sitting, my bacha is still not wake up, right?
Okay, okay. So she's what grade is she in and what school is she in?
11th APS from Delhi only, and looking for a career in data analytics. So that's why I wanted to have more knowledge when he starts.
Absolutely. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
So, good morning, everyone present here for the webinar. So, I am Nidhi Agrawal. I am the Senior Student Advisor at Globestar EduTech Private Limited. Welcome to our AP Statistics Guidance session that we have with Shaileja Sharma. Throughout the session, we aim to provide valuable insights and also strategies so that you can pave your journey towards AP statistics effectively. Also, before we start exploring AP statistics a bit more, I kindly request all the participants to stay on the mute. And if you have any questions, you can drop that on the chat box so that by the end of the session, when we have Q&A session, we can address all of the questions that we have. Moving to the next slide. So this event is organized by TCC, our organizers behind today's AP guidance session. TNI Career Counseling is a certified global admission advisory, career resource manager, and also test prep mentor. Our team comprises of over 200 mentors spanning across 50 plus career areas, each with a deep industry knowledge in their respective domains. At ECC, we have worked with students over 100 schools, providing their tailored support to meet their individual needs. Our admission advisory services consist of end-to-end assistance, including career aptitude test, early advising, profiling, and resume building, test preparation, and admission guidance as well. We have partnered with 1,200 plus universities across 12 plus countries, helping candidates secure over $7 million scholarships. So moving on to the next slide, what do you expect? What are the services that TCC is providing? So we are a life coach, mentoring and profile building company. We'll help you with all of this. Also, we help you with college application guidance, summer school application guidance as well. We also help students in test preparation, like for instance for SAT, GRE, GMAT, and also for AP. Also, we help in extra curriculum support as well. Now, going on to the next slide, that is what can you expect from today's session. So our session is divided into four parts. First one is the overview of the AP statistics. You will have a comprehensive understanding of the AP statistic course structure and key concepts. After that, we also emphasize on giving illustrative examples. We will explore around the practical examples from each major topic to have deeper understanding and reinforce learning. Also, the main part, that is the tips and tricks for the exams. We will be learning effective strategy to excel in the AP statistic exam and maximize your performance. Also, through the end of the session, we will have a Q&A session where all of the doubts will be cleared by Professor Shaileja Sharma herself. Throughout the session, Professor Shaileja Sharma will cover all the key points in AP statistics and provide practical examples to enhance your learning experience. Now, allow me to introduce you to our esteemed expert career coach who will be leading this event, that is Mr. Dhaval Mehta. With over 20 years of experience, Mr. Mehta brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to this field of career counseling. He is a graduate of University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and Columbia University. Additionally, Mr. Mehta has also earned an executive MBA from Cornell University, and right now he is serving as the president of the India Alumni Associate. Mr. Dhaval Mehta is the CEO and founder of Globestar EduTech Private Limited and TNI Career Counseling. Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. Dhaval Mehta to take over from here.
Hi, thank you. Thanks, Nidhi. And, I think a lot of the, what the event today you're going to see or the discussion is really around the expertise that Ms. Shaileja Sharma has. To be very honest, I'm very happy to have her today at this AP session. She's, an extreme. So we were just talking about this, that how students who are applying to data science and data analytics courses and who are really interested need to have a strong basis for AP statistics. And, when we connected on both these, we said we really want to support students on this. I've seen students taking APs right from the ninth grade. It helps set a base. It helps start early. So, many students tend to start with doing an AP in math, AB, and then progress to BC. And then towards the end, they start thinking about taking, AP statistics. Um, but I have seen changing trend since the last year or so, where I've seen students coming to us and telling us, can we even start taking AP statistics earlier? And, I feel this is where, it does help in terms of differentiation. And I'm sure you will hear that from Shaileja as well. She's deeply passionate about supporting the student and the faculty ecosystem. She's a PhD in mathematics from IIT Bombay. And, she's, teaching at some prestigious universities as well. So, without me taking more time, and I think Nidhi's already gone through what services we provide, I would want to introduce Professor Shaileja Sharma to take it from here. Shaileja, if you need to share the screen, we can stop sharing this and Nidhi can help you transition.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Dhaval. It's a pleasure to be with you today here also with Nidhi and with the students and their parents in some cases. I'd like to share screen so that I can go through my slides here. Nidhi,
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, it's visible.
so I mean, as always, with these online events, one thing is you can't really look at the faces of your students. So you just hope that you're audible and that you're making sense and that you are addressing the questions which are in their minds. So let me get started. And as Nidhi said, perhaps we can take questions at the end, or we can take questions whenever Nidhi thinks it is the right time to take questions. So I will try to answer a few questions about why one might want to do AP statistics, when is a good time to start getting prepared for this kind of a course, and what does it entail? What does it cover? What will you be learning? What does one learn in typically in these kinds of courses? Actually, the syllabus or the scope, the curriculum for an AP statistics course is actually mapped more or less to an early undergraduate statistics course. That means a college course which you would typically do in your first or second year of college. However, what is interesting is that you know that it does not require a lot of advanced mathematics or mathematical concepts. So you don't require, for example, group theory, or you don't require a lot of algebra, linear algebra, etc. You don't need analysis. You can the AP program even advertises the AP statistics as a program that does not even require calculus. So they have structured it in such a way that it is accessible to students with a
Shailaja,
yes.
I think your voice is a little bit lower. That's what one of the students put into the
Yeah.
chat. If you might want to, quickly check your audio a little bit or improve your mic so that um
Yeah, okay. I mean, is it better now, or am I
uh,
more audible now, or
I think you might be a little bit more audible. In case you actually had by any chance headphones or
no,
something that
I was not using headphones. So how good is my does the student need to increase the volume at their end or something like
yeah,
that?
yeah, that's what I would also ask them to do that. I have at my end. So, students, maybe you can just increase your volume as well. Yeah. All right, great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Dhaval, can you hear me? Is
I
my
can, I
voice
can
audible
very
to
well
you?
now. I
Yeah.
can. Thank you.
All right. So,
Please
so,
continue.
so let me just continue. So, what is
Yes.
the scope of this presentation? So, we will look at an overview of what the AP statistics examination entails, and most of that information we obtain precisely from the AP website, which is a college board website. I mean, which some of you must have already um, explored. Um, and those who have not can also do that. So one thing is to get an overview of what the AP statistics examination is all about, the logistics entailed, the curriculum, and so on and so forth. Second question is, of course, what is statistics and why might it be an important area of study? Is it for you? Is it for each one of you? Can ask yourselves, is this what I want to study? Is this important to me? And we can go through what does one learn in the AP statistics course, what does the curriculum entail, and what does one need to do in order to do well in such an examination. So these are things I hope to be able to cover in the next few slides. So let's see. So what is AP, or the Advanced Placement Program? To the best of my understanding, it is operated by a non-profit organization called the College Board. And this particular organization has as its members several universities and colleges in the United States. And what is it? So what is this program? So it is for students to prepare for college level studies while they still are in school, which is exactly where you all are. So it is for those of you who are capable of, who are eager to, who are wanting to do it, to do some additional work beyond your school level syllabus. Those of you who want to go beyond what is mandatory for your school level examination, be it ICSE or ISC or CBSE and so on and so forth. So irrespective of including also the foreign boards like Cambridge and so on. So it is for those students who are pursuing, irrespective of what board examination they are writing, it is for students who are capable of or willing, etc., to devote the additional time and make the effort to study something that is not typically a part of their school level syllabus. And what is the advantage of doing this? So the reason why students opt to write the AP examinations is so that when they enroll, if they enroll in a United States, in a university or a college in the US, then potentially they may be exempted from they may be able to transfer the credits. So earn college credits basically while you are still here, so that then you save on it when you are in that college. So you save time, you are already prepared, you're well prepared, that sort of thing. And so, I mean, I think a lot of students find that to be a greatly advantageous to do that. So that's the reason. Also for advanced placements and so on and so forth. Of course, these things will be better understood by Dhaval and Nidhi, etc., who can advise on how to secure advanced placement and so on. Now, so, that sort of thing. So, of course, there are the website, the College Board website, and then they have a dedicated site for the AP Statistics exam. And then they also have a course document, a complete detailed description of the AP Statistics course, including all the learning objectives and all the different things that you're supposed to know. Now, there are no, I mean, it is a course, and the College Board provides lots of different resources to support students who are preparing for this examination, either on their own or through some, let's say, institution or some organization or through some teachers, etc., etc. So they do provide some various kinds of support and resources. And students can go and examine all those websites and see what there is over there and so on and so forth. Now, let us see. So what is it? It is a 1 semester. So it is actually equivalent to a 4-month or a 16-week course, college course. And it's an introductory statistics course, but it is comprehensive, I can say. It is not calculus based. So you don't really need to do any differentiation or integration, or you don't need to know analysis or algebra in order to do the AP statistics course, largely speaking. Now, it is recommended for students who are in the science stream. And what else? So also, it is not only for those who will pursue mathematics. One should know that the pursuit of mathematics is not necessarily the pursuit of statistics. These are different disciplines, although statistics uses a lot of mathematics, and statistics is constructed on the basis of mathematics, but but the two pursuits are actually somewhat different with some overlap, but they are different pursuits. And so it is, so not only is it, and then there's another thing. So it's not, so it may be for those who are interested in mathematics, may be also interested in statistics, as for example, I am. And but then you may also be interested in statistics because you are going to study biology or chemistry or physics or economics, or you can even be in the humanities. Maybe you're just interested in the social sciences or the humanities, and you may still want to study statistics, because as we are seeing increasingly, the widespread use of statistics, and computation in addressing and first of all, in framing new types of problems which people never framed before, because we didn't have the means to answer such questions. So, but now, of course, you know, you can ask certain questions and you can also, in fact, try to answer them by using statistics and computation. So, this is statistics is not only for those who are devoted to mathematics, as some of you have already said you are. Yeah, but it is also for those who may not pursue mathematics, and so you should be aware of that. And as you can see, the prerequisites are also rather low for this program. The reason is because that it is largely focused on uh, how to use statistics. I mean, you know, so in fact, the focus of this course will be largely how to work with data, what you can infer from data, how you can frame a question, and so on and so forth. So there you are with the, so that's the thing about the prerequisites and all that, and also your goals, right? And as I understand, students usually write these exams while they are in the 11th or the 12th standard. So I hope you can see the details of the slide. I mean, this material is taken directly from the AP Statistics website. I hope you can read it. But if you can't read it, well, you can always find it on the website. I just want to dwell a little bit or spend a few minutes on this slide and also on the next couple of slides, because this is about what the AP program in statistics is trying to achieve. So they have. Yes.
Yeah, I guess there's an audio issue once again.
That's
Student has
okay.
put.
It's done. It's done. Go ahead.
Yeah, is it better now? I mean, you know, sometimes can you hear me now, Nidhi? Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. I think momentarily sometimes there are these signal fluctuations. All right, let's see. So there are two. So, you know, what is the AP statistics program trying to do? It is trying to impart certain skills and it is trying to impart certain concepts. So let's look at the skills that the program tries to impart. So the skill, there are, as you can see, they have broken it down into tiny bits. So what are those skill categories? So the first one is the selection of statistical methods, which is like what type of statistical method should I apply to my present problem or to the problem that I'm looking at right now. So what kind of statistical methods should I apply? So what could be the problem? So the problem could be, for example, I want to conduct a survey, I want to collect data. So what kind of statistical method should I use for collecting data, right? Or it could be, um, here I am, I have found that 89% of the people like the color pink and the others like the color blue and things like that, right? So what can I infer from this? You know, can I draw a conclusion that such and such is a preferred color, or that, you know, what kinds of statistical inferences can I make about about the data, about the things that I have observed from my observations, you know, from my calculations also. What kinds of inferences can I draw? Are the people who like the pink color and the people who come like the blue color, are they completely different sets of people? You know, that sort of thing. So I mean, I just made up that at the spur of the moment, but what I'm trying to say is how do you draw inferences, for example, about political preferences, or how do you distinguish between one species and another species? What can you say about some statistical information, you know, that you did a survey on 1,000 people and you found something out, and is that you've calculated some numbers out of it, and what can you do with those numbers? Can you apply those numbers to the general population? Can you say things about the entire population under consideration? So can you say something all about all, let's say all Indians or all high school students based on a survey that you conducted with 100 high school students, right? So those kinds of things. So let's just go through the first item here. Select methods for collecting and or analyzing data for statistical inference. And the skills they identify under that are the question to be answered, identify the question, identify the information, describe an appropriate method, whether it is for collecting data or representing data or drawing an inference, or describe a test, a statistical test, describe how you would frame your hypotheses about the problem. The next skill category is about data analysis. So what is data analysis? So it is about how do you, when you are given a data set, what can you do with it? How do you find patterns in the data set? How do you examine the data? What should you do? For example, would you present it numerically in the form of tables? Would you summarize it in the form of some tables? Would you make a sketch or a graph? Would you sketch it or make a graph of it? You know, what kinds of representations, visual representations can you make of the data? There are things like some things which you are already familiar with, which are bar charts and histograms and things like that. But then there are also scatter plots, and there are stem and leaf diagrams, and so on and so forth. So many kinds of representations that you can look at. Then there is data analysis also includes calculation of summary values for the data. And then, you know, things like something like correlation, is the data correlated? And there's also, you know, prediction, which is how do you predict something from the data you have about that phenomenon, right? Similarly, you know, how to compare different sets of data. So how do you do all that? That is data analysis. Then the third one is using probability and simulation. So, well, if you want to use probability, you should know something about probability. Probability theory is a part of mathematics. And probability theory is the description of some kinds of random behaviors. And so you need to have things like probability distributions. And those probability distributions are specified in terms of some parameters, some values, which determine what they look like, what the shape of those distributions are. So, you know, so using probability and simulation, it says explore random phenomena, right? So you are, I'm reading this part here, explore random phenomena. So you are, you know, you're determining frequencies and probabilities, and you are also doing things like constructing confidence intervals. And there are statistical tests, and there are p-values. Those of you who have been looking at videos, you know, on the internet, or you've been familiarizing yourself with statistics and data analytics, I know that some of you must be doing that already. So you would be familiar with words or expressions or terms like p-value and confidence test and so on and so forth. So, so those kinds of things are also there. And then finally, statistical argumentation. So how do you make a statistical argument? How do you make a statistical argument? I mean, how do you justify a statistical conclusion? So let's see what is said over here. So it says make an appropriate claim or draw appropriate conclusions. So you should understand that statistical conclusions are very different from mathematical conclusions. Mathematical conclusions have an inevitability about them. They are, you know, they are permanent, and they are indubitable. They cannot be doubted. But statistical conclusions invariably are predicated. They are subject to certain, you know, certain, let's say, you know, they are subject to certain boundaries. Okay, they are probabilistic statements. They are not absolute statements. So the business of statistical argumentations. How do you make a statistical argument? Okay, and how do you justify the use of a certain statistical procedure? And those are the things which are down here in 4.CDE. So those are the kinds of skills. So let's go over it again. So one is about selecting a statistical method. Second is about what do you do with you're given a pile of data. Then, you know, how do you use probability theory? Finally, how do you construct a statistical argument? So then the other thing is, so they want to impart certain skills, and then they also want to impart certain concepts. And let's see how these things are framed in the AP course document. You can access this course document and you can read it in great detail separately. Okay. So let's see. Now here, the first one is the understanding the idea of variability in the data. Variability. So how do you measure variability in the data? How do you understand the fact that if you, let's say you conducted a survey, you surveyed 100 people from around the place where you live, right? You do that survey today and you did another survey, or your friend did a similar survey somewhere else, or you both did separate surveys in the same area or something like that. So can you compare these two? Will the two surveys yield the same results? How should you understand variability? So these are all deep questions, and these are really good questions, and these are the questions that statistics tries to answer, right? So statistical methods based on probabilistic reasoning provide the basis for shared understanding about variation and about the likelihood that the variation is random or it is meaningful. So, I mean, I'm just reading out what is over here. I don't know how much that is going across to you, but so one big concept is this business of variability, okay? And then the second one is about patterns and the fact that there is uncertainty. You should understand that variability and uncertainty are two different things. Statistics is all about reasoning with uncertainty, right? So when you have uncertainty, when you are not absolutely sure, for example, what can we not be sure about? There are many things you cannot be exactly sure about because of the randomness in those phenomena, right? So, for example, if you let's say, I mean, even in your marks, when you write examinations, right, from one examination to another examination, there is a certain amount degree of randomness in your scores, right? Quite apart from the part that your preparation and all those things which you control actually. But still, there will be some randomness. All right. Another one is like, someone's playing cricket and then they can hit the ball or not hit it, or they can make a run, so many runs or not so many runs, or they can be bowled out, etc., etc. So there's a certain degree of randomness in all these phenomena, right? And so the question, that is what is called uncertainty, right? That is called uncertainty, the uncertainty of the outcome. You cannot predict it exactly. You are trying to calculate the amount of uncertainty. So here you have simulation and probabilistic reasoning. So these are, simulation. How do you use, what is simulation? How do you try to recreate some phenomenon? How do you do that? I mean, what techniques can you have? How do you use simulation? How do you use a computer to generate cricket, scores, for example, or some particular players' batting, what do you call it, average, and so on and so forth. You can simulate those things. How do you do that? I mean, I don't think the course really tells you all about that, but it touches upon simulation, and so it prepares you to start asking those kinds of bigger questions. All right, so that's what it is. And the third one is about database predictions and decisions. This is about regression models. This is another term that those of you who have been looking at videos on YouTube, etc., must have probably come across. Or these words are so commonly used nowadays. Everyone's talking about regression models, which describe the relationship between, let's say, two variables, right? And you try to predict one variable from information about the other one. Classic, usual textbook example is, can you predict weight from height, for example? All right. And so you collect a lot of data on heights and weights of people, lots of data, hopefully randomly you do that. And then so you collect, you do a random sampling, and then you try to generate, and then you try to actually fit a regression model and try to make a prediction about how do you, can you do that? How can you predict, and how good is your prediction and things like that. So that is all the stuff that statistics is all about. So I think that's what it is really. I mean, those are the things that they have listed out there, and I mean, we can go into some more details of it. But it's quite a good course. I can say that this material is a good material, and so that's what the course is all about. Now, if you look at it, they have really broken it down into tiny learning units, actually, into very small little modules that you can take individually and study. So it's quite a lot of work, I mean, to study AT learning, if you really want to master it. So there's an expectation that students will be able to do this in, let's say, in 16 weeks, So, I mean, they're supposed to be doing it. So I think 40 to 60 hours is what they are expecting people to do. So, I mean, I would say that, well, as school students who have got other things also to study and examinations to write and so on and so forth, but you still need to spend quite a bit of time if you want to finish studying this within, let's say, space of 3-4 months, if that's your goal. Some of you have years to do it, so that's a different case. But I think they are expecting students to spend some 60 hours, I think, if we are trying to do this in a space of, let's say, 4 months. So that's what it is. So I can go into how to study and so on and so forth, but I'd like to just pause over here and ask Nidhi, how are we doing on time?
So, Shailaja, if I might just, interrupt and just suggest that maybe if we were able to somehow look at some, examples that we can go through, that would actually support also or help them understand a little bit more the type of questions that probably come in or where the starting point might be, even though they of course have some access to maybe that starting point is kind of important.
Yeah, Dhaval, I intend to look at some sample questions from some past papers, etc., at the end of this session. That's the last 15 minutes as per Nidhi's plan. So is that okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, if you think that that's something you would like to do, sure. If you want to just go over the rest of, your slides and then probably take up some examples and then we can take up some questions.
That's
does that,
fine.
yeah?
That makes sense. That is
All right,
perfectly okay. So then let me just proceed with this. So I'll
please.
just quickly tell, I think I have just a couple of slides here. So anyway, so there's this, so I already went through this one, right? And so now the question arises, how should you study? How should you study? How does one study? Does one study by reading a textbook? Should one be doing past papers? Should one take tutoring? Of course, you could do all of those things. Should you solve every single question in the textbook? I mean, one can say that all of these things are relevant. You can do. I mean, how you do it, that's up to you. But reading a textbook is not the best way. You should read the textbook, but it's certainly not enough to do that, as you all know, of course. I mean, you don't learn mathematics, certainly don't learn mathematics or statistics, neither of them, by reading a textbook. Although it's important to read because reading helps you to sort of, see things in context and understand the reasoning and so on and so forth. Now, how should you do past papers? Invariably, past papers come with some answer sheet somewhere. So you can always look at the past papers and then look at the answers. And so, that sort of thing. But so that alone also is not enough. So mostly, students have to do a mix of all these things. I would say that you should try to master the concepts. You should gain mastery over the concepts. You should definitely do a lot of practice. You should also engage in group work, and you should discuss with fellow students, and you should definitely ask questions. So my opinion, these 4 things are the things that I would say that's how you should study. I mean, in general, right? That's the way you study. Of course, you should also do a lot of reading and on your own examine and explore different resources. Okay. So these are just some logistical details. I believe the next exam will be held on the 7th of May, and there is some provision for late testing. And, it's a 3-hour examination. It has got 2 sections. It's got a multiple choice section. It has a what is called a free rest. So there are 2 sections. It's a 3-hour long paper, and there are 2 sections. What is the first section? It's multiple choice, like MCQ section. And then there is a what you might call a descriptive answers section, right? Where you can do calculations and you can argue. You saw that one of the skills was about giving a valid statistical argumentation. So you can also, so we'll see examples of both of these. I believe that's the end of my presentation here. So just one more thing, which is about the weightages. And so you can see that the different topics have different weightages over here, right? So at some point, one can stop and ask oneself, you can optimize across these things. So maybe if you don't know very well the chi-square test or something, like you don't know regression analysis or something, but you can still make, you can still score well if you are good with everything else. So there is this kind of available information also about the weighting in the examinations. And one more relevant piece of information is that I understand that in any given attempt or in any given instance, about 60% of the students actually make the grade. So many students seem to fall below the required grade of +3. And there are some also who also score the highest possible mark. And so we are interested only AP statistics here. So I'm disregarding all this, right? I'm just looking at the last row of this data. So that's actually that is a bunch of statistics about the examination, right? And so it tells you.
I was just going to say, Shailaja, this is also very interesting.
Yes.
Because, if you see a lot of students who end up taking BC are really doing fairly well with the fives because they've probably really, mastered those concepts, for calculus before they're getting into doing like a calculus 2. And with statistics, I feel many of them go into probably thinking that it's going to be relatively, maybe it's understanding the way, just like what you mentioned earlier, is really understanding what are the expectations, while you're going into, give this exam, which is a little different than how, in India we give our, exams, because you have a choice of multiple. So there's MCQs, and then you have the free responses. So it's really how students also focus on, answering that multiple choice question and also the free responses. I feel sometimes tactically they, need to read the question well in terms of what is the expectation, and then put your steps down. And sometimes if you're not doing that, that's where you tend to lose, your scores, your marks, is what we've sort of seen, while many of them are taking the AP statistics. But this is a very interesting comparison that we've seen here is, that many of them are, still to get the fives for an AP statistics is still fairly challenging. So that means they have to put in a decent amount of effort, like the 60 hours that you mentioned. It's a good starting point for them and to focus. And that's why I think it's, I'd be very happy to see how you can motivate these students to kind of, and I think one of the questions for the students was also that, is that how do we really start, focusing on, if we have a year now, I'm in the 9th and I have another year now, how do I really focus on, building up on this, so that I can study? And some of them have less time. We know there are some of them who are in the 11th and 12th, and they actually have less time. They want to take it this May, so they only have, 3 months. So how do they really prepare if they have 3 months and they have 60 hours?
Right.
Where should they start?
Yeah. No, Dhaval, absolutely. I think, thanks for pointing out, the difference between the AP statistics scores and the other scores. Of course, AP, even calculus, you can see students actually manage to get, more students get a higher score in the high score, the top scores, in calculus than they do in statistics. I think one of the things is one possibility, there are a couple of possibilities here. You see, one is that Many people may be under the impression that statistics is quite easy because they have only seen some very trivial kind of statistics in high school, you know. And the other thing is, I think it also points to the fact that students don't get adequate support for statistics actually right now in India. And this is the thing that we discussed, Dhaval, which is that, that there aren't enough there aren't enough options or opportunities for students to gain a good exposure to statistics, formal statistical methods and theory, etc. Yet over here in India. So I think students wander into the AP Stats exam without adequate preparation, and maybe that also partly explains the relatively poor achievement that we see over here, the average achievement. So anyway, so I think so that's the reason why I think and more students are getting interested in statistics because it's it is in fact the most sought after discipline now presently, but we don't have sufficient support for students or for teachers actually at the moment. So well, anyway, we're trying to help in that regard over here. So that's the mission, right? So I'll now stop this presentation, and I think that was my very last slide, really. And I'll just go into, as you said, a few questions, and I'm going to actually just look at the past question papers. I hope you can see my screen now. Can you see my screen now or
Yes,
not?
yes, it's visible.
So what are you seeing? Are you seeing a question paper or something like that?
No, it's the presentation,
Oh, it's
the
still the
last slide of the
presentation. So
presentation.
excuse me, I will stop sharing for just a moment and then I will share again.
Okay, that's fine.
And I will share again. So let us see. So this is what I would like you to see, all right? So what I have here on the screen now uh, is oh, excuse me. What I have is I have actually some past papers or some past question papers from the AP statistics examination. So you can just see, look at the questions over here, right? And these are examples of the, let's say, of the MCQ questions. So the first question over here is, which of the following histograms has a shape that is approximately uniform? So what's interesting is, first of all, these are all histograms. So one has to understand that these are histograms. Are these histograms? I mean, so what is a histogram? So of course, you should know what is a histogram. So a histogram is not a bar chart. For example, these are not bar charts. The areas of these things over here, these boxes over here, they're proportionate to some probabilities, which are calculated in terms of relative frequencies. So you see, so it is data based, and what is on the y-axis is the relative frequency, the frequency of this particular category out of the total frequency. That is the relative frequency. And the question is, which of these histograms has a shape that is approximately uniform? All right. So there is so here, what is the meaning of uniform? Is this an English word or is it a statistical word? Actually, it is a word from probability theory. It's a mathematics word. So the question is, which of these is approximately representing a uniform distribution? So there's something called a uniform distribution in probability theory, and which is the one, so the uniform distribution is one in which all the probabilities are like uniform, they are all at the same level. So of course, from the very word uniform, you may have guessed that the most likely candidate is the first one, and indeed it is the first one. What is interesting to observe is that, well, there are so many different distributions shown over here. One is approximately rectangular. That is the one which is approximately uniform. Here you see one which is symmetric. It is looking quite triangular in shape. And that's one type of distribution. Here you see, and the third one, the C option, you see a graph which is increasing in this form over here. So it is a growth function. Here you see a bimodal distribution, which has got two peaks in these two different points. Over here with a U-shaped graph, it's a different thing. And here you have a declining graph, right? It is triangular and it is declining. So these are the different types of things, the different histograms that are shown over here. Well, the answer to that would be the very first one, because it is a approximately uniformly distributed rectangular distribution. And another problem over here says that a recent study reported that 45% of adults in the United States now get all their news online. That means 45% of the adults are getting their news online, okay? And somebody sampled 8 adults, 8 only. So they sampled 8 people and they want to know the probability that 6 of these people will be getting their news online. So this is another variety of problems. So you can see that this problem is asking you to compute the probability based on some generally is there some known fact or a theory that there are that 45% are using online news, right? And sample size over here is given as 8. This, to answer this question, you need to, I would have liked actually to ask the students whether any of them would know how to answer this question, or whether they are familiar with what is called a binomial distribution. I don't know if students are familiar, or maybe some of you are familiar. I expect that some of you are familiar. I don't expect students who are in the 9th standard to be familiar with the binomial distribution, which is a probability distribution. But perhaps some of the students in the 12th standard or maybe in the 11th standard might be familiar with the binomial distribution. And
Jamini or anyone else, do you all want to?
they can
Do,
text.
do-
They
yeah.
can
Do you want to just put it on the group if there's something, or if you want to talk also, happy
Yeah.
to. Or does any of the other students also want to try?
Oh, there are lots of responses in the chat box, I believe.
Yeah, those are actually other questions which have
Oh,
come
okay.
in. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, okay.
So I think the questions are more about, the APs, and that's something I was going to get to later.
Yeah.
Just, how to select them and, which one to
Right.
register. And so,
Okay, so in that case, perhaps I should just proceed to try to
Yeah.
explain or
Yeah.
to, if it is helpful. I mean, without
Yeah,
a
that
knowledge
would
of the
be.
binomial distribution, I would just like to say that out of 8 adults who were sampled, out of 8 people, 6, what is it? And they want us to tell them what is the probability that out of 8 people, 6 would be people who get their news online. So it is something to do with selecting 6 people out of 8, right? It's something about selecting 6 people out of 8. However, it's related to the binomial distribution actually. So since 45%, that is 0.45% of them, are, so we want to compute a probability. So actually we would write 8C6.45 to the 6 and 0.55 to the 2. So the D would be the answer for this problem. So how is that the answer? Well, that's a binomial distribution. We should talk about that. And now again, here, similarly, we have something else which says that 17% of a random sample of 200. So you can see that the questions tend to be quite long. So one of the big tasks here is to, first of all, have the ability to read a lengthy question with lots of numbers in it and to translate all those numbers into something that you can work with. So here it says 17% of 200 adults. So, I mean, indicated that they consume 3 pounds of something and 25% of 600 adults. So there are 2 different samples. So 2 different surveys were conducted. In the first one, 17%, 203, and the third one has 25%, 600, and also 3, at least 3, it says. So then it's asking about some inference. So this is a statistical inference problem, and which is the most appropriate test statistic. So they want to know which statistical test would you use. What is a test statistic? A test statistic is a value that is computed. It is this thing is a computed value. It's a computed value, and they want to know which of these computed values is the correct statistic to use to investigate a hypothesis. What is the hypothesis? That the proportion of all adults who consume at least 3 pounds in 2016 is different. So that means that between 2016 and 2011, the consumption of bacon or the eating habits of people has on this particular, and based on this particular survey and this particular food item, that there has been a shift in the let's say in the food habits or in the consumption of this particular food product. You see, that is the thing. So this is an inference question. They want us to compute a statistic. How do you do that? So, well, you have to use a formula for looking at the difference between the two proportions, 17.17 and 0.25. And then you have to standardize it using some standard deviations, which are calculated. So, so I'm not going to get into which one of these is the right one, because it's not very useful to do that right now, isn't it? So here you can see that you're getting, let's say we call this P1 and we call that P2, and we do P1 minus P2 divided by, and then what is this, P1 into 1 minus P1 by, let's say N1, P2 into 1 minus P2 by N2. So ultimately it boils down to some computation. So it's based on a binomial probabilities, because you have to look for proportions. These percentages are actually proportions. So they are proportions of a sample, 17%. That very word tells you that you are dealing with proportions, and therefore you are going to be using a binomial distribution. That is let's say that is a cue or the clue which is there in the problem, which tells you which solution to apply.
So Shailaja, we just have time for one more.
We
and
just
then
have
I
time
think we
for
can
one
get to
more.
questions.
Yeah, I will just, yes, indeed, I will. So, so you can see that, so you see here, there are questions about p-values and whatnot. So nice, I mean, for people who like and enjoy working with data, I mean, who like and think that, that this is a fun thing to do. What sort of free response questions can we possibly be looking at? So look at this problem here. Geologists studying lead concentration in soil selected random samples from two regions A and B, and then made histograms of the two. So you can see that this is some data which is represented graphically as a histogram. This is also a thing. And the first question says, write a few sentences comparing the distribution. So you want to compare the first distribution to the second histogram, the first histogram to the second histogram. And how should you do that? What should you be looking at? You should be looking at things like, I mean, you can't just say that, oh, they look different. I mean, that's a very obvious thing to say. But what more can you say? How should you look at it? You can see, for example, that the largest values in the first one are higher than the largest values in the second one, right? And you can see that that the whole distribution has shifted into 50 to 250 in the second one, with some outlying data over here, whereas it is more spread out in the first one. You can see that the mean is likely to have shifted. So here we are looking at how can we read histograms? What can we say about things like the mean, the median, the range, the variance? These are all concepts that you already know in high school. So when you see it graphically represented in a histogram, how can you immediately make comments about the mean, median, variance, range, that kind of thing? So that's what the first question. And the second question is asking you, let's see, what is it asking us to do? It's asking us to do some kind of a test, a statistical test, and calculate some p-values and whether there is sufficient evidence. This is a problem in statistical reasoning, the thing that we talked about earlier, which was about how do you make a convincing statistical statement or express an argument, a statistical argument. Okay, so I will just leave it there. I think, as you can see, yeah, I mean, I just like one final remark, which is, first of all, the questions tend to be lengthy, so you have to patiently and attentively read it from start to beginning, start to end, and you have to be able to interpret the question in terms of what you know. And the second thing is that the rest of it is, you have, so first thing is to read it, and second thing is to interpret it, and the third thing is to compute it. So that's what the problem, the thing expects you to do, the examination expects you to do, and those are the skills that you need to acquire. So I'll stop here, and over to you, Dhaval.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very helpful, Shailaja. And I hope most of y'all did benefit out of, a lot of the discussions that we actually had. And Shailaja actually, if I had to quickly put a summary to this is, Shailaja actually went through, how do you register for APs? Where do you look around? I put in, the website for that as well. So that each one of you all could actually see how to register for an AP. There are two deadlines. One is the early deadline in so there's one is the regular APs, and then there's the late APs. And I think there was a question also that someone posted, or a Saket posted, and asked about if I'm late for registering. So what I understand is you're in February, and actually the late AP is what you can still register for. So the site that I've actually sent, you all can open it up and you all can look at it. And there is the late AP that happens in the second half of May. And the schedule is also given. There's a particular website for APs in India. And I think that's what you need to actually look at. And that's where you'll get more information about how to register. And if you have any of those, questions later, you can always contact us. Didhi's actually put, a contact number for her that you can reach out to get any more information. And, we could have something called an initial counseling session where we need to sort of understand your background, where you are at currently, what support you require. Also, you have questions on which AP should I select, and if this AP should be something, how do I select these APs, right? Because is it something that needs to be, closer to what you're going to major in college? So these are fantastic questions. Now, remember, and let me go back to a little bit of the history of the APs, right? So the idea of putting an AP, or why College Board even did this, is because in the US, you have so many different states. Everyone has a different schooling system. You have private schools, all of that. And, when a college wants to look at a child that comes in, they want to understand that maybe you learned certain math at this school. And many of them learn things in various ways. But if there is a common exam, it becomes easier for them to estimate, right? And that's why they call them standardized exams, right? Just to understand what kind of a knowledge base has that student acquired. And so that's what AP does from a subject perspective. So you have over 40 APs actually in the US that you can take. But in India, I think there are only about 20 or 23 APs, AP exams that are held. And they're only held in May, as you can see, every year. During COVID, they actually had even removed the MCQ section, and they were only putting free responses. So there's only free responses. They now went back to the same pattern, which is the MCQ and the free responses. I think it's a good idea to have both these. It kind of fairly evaluates, because you get an opportunity to even show your skill set in terms of writing it out and analyzing it, in the free responses. And then in the MCQs, it kind of tests, because there are so many topics you have to cover, and you can't keep writing on everything. So, you're actually going through the questions through an MCQ where you can, kind of analyze what's important. You realize what topic is this covered under, and then you start thinking about what theories apply, and then you start analyzing it, and then, quickly mark it up. So you have to also understand timing plays an important role. As Shailaja mentioned, this is 3 hours. And so you have to adequately, keep yourself prepared to take this exam, right? So that's what I would say. And answering the question that I'd say Vishaka had is also, do I have to align my with my college major? And I think what we recommend is that if you're looking at math, then definitely there are 3 math exams. If you're looking at sciences, if you're looking at engineering, you have physics, and there are 4 physics papers. But it's recommended. So let me also take a step back and say, what curriculum are you taking? So if you're taking Cambridge, if you're taking IB, both these curriculums to some extent are rigorous. And so, the subjects that you're taking, so if you've already taken math high level at IB, in the IBDP, that to an extent would be sufficient, for you to, while you're applying for colleges. But, maybe an AP or the math BC has more topics than the IB also HL covers. The statistics is something that you might not completely cover as well. So taking it is a good idea if you're looking at maybe a data science. It just shows your preparedness, right? So just giving you that sense, but there are students who start from the 9th grade, especially students outside, even the US, they start in the 9th grade, and some of them, because they're taking public school, might even take about 10 to 12 APs. But not to like, get you worried, but you don't need to take that many APs. For you, if you're taking Cambridge IB, taking those relevant APs, would make sense. When I say relevant is, if you think you want to go towards engineering or the sciences, you're already taking certain courses here, and maybe you're only taking HL, and there's something that you're taking in SL, which you want to show that you're doing, better at, or you're stronger at, you can take them. But those students who are in the, in CBSE or an ISC, they might want to consider taking APs to a larger extent to also show their preparedness, because the rigor might not be the same as what they're expecting at college level. So I hope to an extent that does, and we can definitely, we're happy to help you clarify that a little bit more, in an IC session or initial counseling session, which is what we would do, is kind of get your background, work with you, understand what subjects you've taken, understand where do you want to go, what are your goals, and then support you by telling you what you need to exactly take. So there's no one answer to this. I think it also depends on, goals for each student. So I hope that I've, been able to answer that for Vishaka. Saket, I think I've been able to answer the question for you, that you can take the May 2024, but the late APs, because I think the registration ends by the end of February. I think there's a question here that Vishaka also had, is that, if I'm going to take IBDP for 11th, which I think I've answered now, because the IB is completely different framework. So should I take the APs when I get to my DP years? So if you want to prepare yourself a little ahead of time, maybe for math, and you can find the time during your 10th, after you finish your exams, because I think the IGCSE exams happen in March. So if you're in the March schedule, and you find time to actually, study for the AP, you can take them. That might help you set a base for them when you're getting into the IBDP program as well. But after that, it depends on what you are planning, or where you're planning to apply to. If you're taking math at a high level at IBDP, you might not need to take, math, AP, AB, BC. Some of them do take. Or you could take a statistics. You don't need to take both. So that's how I would put it. But yeah, if you're looking at data science or applying to a data science course, it might help you to take the AP statistics. I think I've addressed those questions. How do I use 10th vacation? I think this varies from students to students, and I think again it's a discussion to be had, because we would need to know what all you've done before that, and we typically suggest, and that's definitely time for, I mean, that's probably another discussion in itself, but if you're supporting your exploration every year, with saying, okay, if I'm really looking at, a major, or I'm unsure what I want to do right now, but I'm actually, taking Coursera courses, or I'm doing some exploration by taking an AI, course, which is about 3-4 weeks, or, I'm trying to understand what data science is outside. If you have to do exploration outside to, every year and show that you're doing that, to ultimately make an admission officer realize that you're pushing your limits while you're in and out of school. So how are you doing in school? How are you doing outside school? What are the activities you're taking? How inquisitive you are? How curious you are? How do you help those small explorations to see the bigger picture, and you have some idea of what you might want to do? That's important to them. So that's the diversity they want to bring to the class. And so you have to really convince them about that diversity, even take internships, do some research work. You have to plan this across the next 4 years of high school. I would say 3, because by the time you come in the 12th grade, you're already applying in your first semester to universities, and some of the early admission deadlines are even by October. And your EDs will probably be October if it's the US, or even in India today, the SAT is accepted by many universities. So actually, students are preparing for the SATs as a standardized test, because maybe they don't want to give 4 or 5 tests when you're applying to different universities. So considering all of this is sort of important, and that's what we sort of discussed in the initial counseling session as well. So I hope we've been able to kind of go through most of your questions. And anything that you would like to add, Shailaja?
Not really. Sorry, nothing further to add. I mean, I think I have said everything that I would like to say, and I think whatever you added is making a lot of sense. So I hope the students, especially, found it useful. If they have any further questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, I think that, Nidhi, you were going to add the feedback, form. So, I would suggest that the feedback form should be, added, and I would request most of you all to actually fill out the feedback form, so that we understand also that if you require support, and we need to build a study group for you, we need to be able to support you through some tutoring. We're happy to do that. But if you can get back to us by completing the feedback form, that would help even Shailaja understand, and us understand how you felt the session was, what kind of support and help that you need. Yeah, great. Nidhi, do you want to just go to slide 12? And
Yeah, that is what
so we've seen most of our students kind of take, so even when they're in IGCSE, they're taking these.
just a minute, I'll share the screen. Pojaba, you can stop sharing the screen and maybe I can share it. Yeah.
So, I mean, just giving them an idea that, there are students from IGCSE, A levels, IB, from all different backgrounds that have taken, APs, and what kind of different AP exams that they've actually taken. So, many of them start preparing in the 9th and 10th, take them. So it's very doable. It's something that you can think of taking. And, we just wanted to put it out there so that it becomes a little bit easier for you to understand that you can, start early, work towards it, and it's possible, but you need sufficient time. And I would say universities, the top 5 universities in the UK as well, they do like to see APs that students would take, especially those who come from a CBSE, ISE background, but they would require more. They'd probably require about 4 APs that they'd like to see. But the ones who are even, doing an IBDP, or doing or taking up something in A levels, even if they have an additional AP to show, that would be good. So I hope that resolves any queries that you all have, and I really appreciate, Shailaja, the time that you spent, and I think we've just made it within the time that we had decided. It's about 10:15. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here in the session. Nidhi, have you put the feedback form?
Yes.
I can't see it on the group. The feedback form isn't on the group.
Okay, I'll just share it on the group
If you
as
just
well
put it
right
up,
now.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Vishaka is asking a question. So how do we prepare for APs technically, apart from textbooks, any other further guidance that is required? So Vishaka, I think that, and I think this is something that, Shailaja had put in, is it's a mix of everything, right? So one is, of course, find students who are also willing to take up these APs. This is what we do, as I said. One is tell you about what kind of material that you need to have, but also provide, the tutor, the expertise, to help you sort of build a calendar, and then, you can come back with questions. So it could be where it's a proper guided session, or it could be where, you're guided to do this kind of work, and then you come back and then you want to do doubt solving sessions, for instance. So it all depends from a student to student perspective as well. But you need to come back and write to us. All right. Um, and so this is what I think there's a form there that Nidhi just put in. We would request your feedback on the AP guidance. If you just click on that link, you will actually see questions that are already there, and we would want you to also tell us how you think the session went, and if there's anything else that you require, or any APs that you require support with, that would sort of help us understand things better from our perspective as well. Yeah. Great. Thank
Also, in the feedback form, we want them to suggest us if what is the next session they are looking for. Is it only doubts, or do they want specific topics to be covered?
Yeah. Okay.
We can
Fantastic.
do that as well.
Great. No, that's great. Let them take a minute. But Shailaja, I I really appreciate the time that you've taken, and we will share the feedback with you as well, so that you know how students have actually, felt about this session.
That'll be fine. Yeah. Thank you very much, Naval.
Lovely.
It
Thank
was
you,
a pleasure.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Nidhi, too.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.